Hi everyone, so today we will elaborate on what we did last time, and I will show you how to enhance your page with CSS. And we're gonna start with this discussion, and it's very easy to actually copy it. If you hover over the fork button and click on it, it will automatically create a copy of that. And of course you should rename it. So I'm going to rename it week 3. So for you can just add your name. And last time we worked with HTML panel here, right? Naturally, now we're in CSS, so we're going to start adding the styles in here. And I will start with the generic styles for the overall text and the background. So we need to create a body, and we need curly brackets, and I will say background color. I'll use black because this is the color I use on my website, but you can choose whichever color you want. You can also use color picker. Alright, now of course all the text has disappeared because black on black is not visible, so we'll have to fix that. So I'm gonna say color white. And yes, it's kind of funny that CSS doesn't have text color, it's just color, but it assumes that it's the color of the text. All right. Next, I want to format this block of text a little bit. I just want to add a little more variety to the indentation and shift, increase the margin for the lower heading, the smaller heading, and the paragraph and the image. And yes, I could do it one by one, but as the web developer, you should always think about how you can optimize things. In web development, there is a term dry. Do not repeat yourself, because the more lines of code you add, well, the heavier the page becomes. So you have to think in terms of minimalistic design, minimalistic coding. So what I'm gonna do here is combine all the elements that I want to shift to the right, that I want to add the left margin to. And these will be my paragraph, comma, my image tag, and my H2. And as long as I put the commas between them, it will think of them as a group. And now I can create curly brackets and add a shared style. I'm gonna say margin left, and I will specify the number. You can specify it either in pixels or the percentages, or there are also other ways to specify it. So if I could say 15 pixels and it will shift by 15 pixels. I could also say, for example, 5%, and it will calculate, it will be dynamic based on the width of the page. So if it's pixels, it's a set number, but if it's percentages, it will change. And in modern design, when we see the websites change with browser window resize, this is how it's achieved. It's one way to achieve it is using percentages. All right, so I created a margin, and next I also want to add just some decoration to the image. So I'm gonna have to say image again, because this time I only want to affect the image. Oops. It's curly brackets, And I want to add a border to the image. So I made it gray so that it's not so contrasty, and you can see it appears here. I mean, that looks nice, but I could also add a little bit of space between the image and the border, and that can be done with a padding. And you can decide on the values. I can try 5 pixels maybe. And that's going to be a little more prominent, and so forth. So that makes it a little more elegant, and you can also look up the different border styles on W3 Schools. It doesn't need to be solid. It could be, for example, dotted. And you see now it's a little fancier. And there are more styles. So with CSS, you just kind of have to explore the possibilities using documentation. I'm just giving you some initial ideas. All right, next we can increase the height of the lines in the paragraph a little bit. I could say, for instance, again, I'm gonna use paragraph as a standalone tag right now because I only want to affect the paragraph. And I will say line height, and I will change it from the default line height to a little bigger, let's say 1.5. And so it added a little more space. I could also control the distance between the H1 and H2 and between the paragraph breaks by using the margins. And so, for example, I could say H2 and I could actually, I'm gonna say something different. I'm gonna say H1, and I will increase the bottom margin for H1. Let's say margin bottom, let's say 10 pixels. Maybe it should be 15. Oh, that didn't seem to change much. Something strange is happening here. So let's, whenever you see something is not changing, the best way is to change something obvious, such as color, for example. And I like obnoxious colors. So yeah, I definitely see it's working. And I could, actually, since we're on that subject, we're gonna say color gray. Or I could say light gray. Or actually I will give it a hexadecimal value. Let's do light gray like this. I could also maybe add a little bit of spacing between the letters. So you could do things like that. also say text transform uppercase. So that gives it a little more interesting heading. Now for everything else below my name, I might change the font family for that as well. So instead of monospace, I will use actually, why don't we do that? Why don't we try to apply monospace for all the text, and let's see how that looks first. So I'm gonna take this, and instead of applying it for every paragraph or paragraph and H2 heading, the easiest way is to actually apply it to the body, right? If I want it to be a global change. And that kind of looks nice, actually. So I might even leave it like that. I could also try other ones like sans serif, which is also a good option for the web text. So I recommend using, especially for the smaller text, it's much more readable if you make it sans serif rather than serif, and you have to specify it so that it's not a default option, so you have to specify it. And now we could possibly say maybe like H1 and H2 will be monospace. Again, I could combine them. I don't have a tag for H2, but because they share the same property, I don't want to, again, do it twice. Do not repeat yourself. Let me do something like that. H1, comma, H2, and I will say monospace for both. All right. I could also change the size a little bit. For H1, maybe I could say font size large, or say, well, that didn't happen to be too large. Yeah, I think it's because of the monospace. It just has a different rendering than sans serif. So we might need to go by some other measurement. So we could say, well, for now I could say, let's start with the points. Okay, so 12 points. Maybe instead of 12, let's do 18 or 25. So that gets bigger, and I do like that size, so I'm gonna leave it like that. All right. One more thing that I don't like is this dark color for the website that I provided, because it's very hard to read on black. So I'm gonna change that. And the way we're gonna change it, well, first of all, let's go ahead and add a comment. Link color. Maybe I should say hyperlink. And with hyperlinks, there is a special syntax we have to use. It's called pseudo classes. First, I'm gonna say a, just like, you know, anchor tag. Remember, we used a href. But in addition to that, because it has already been clicked and it's purple because it's a visited link, I'll have to specify the color for the visited link as well. So I'm going to say a visited, and then I will change the color. So you see, like, even though I specified the white color for the body, it doesn't really, oh, and okay, I actually made a typo here. It's a space. It should be no space. So once I set up the visited link color, it's going to change here. So the links are different from the rest of the text. Even though I did have my white color set up as a default color, it did not apply to the links. So you have to render them separately. And if I want to have a different color for the rollover, because right now it changes to the cursor but it doesn't change the color, and usually it's nice when you have some kind of color change when you hover over or something changes. So I could say a hover, and I have to be careful not to add a space this time, and I will say color, let's make it gray, or I could actually use the same color as the text for the heading, but first let's see if that's, well, that might be a little too dark. Let's make it a little lighter. See how that looks like. Yeah, that's a nicer color. So I added a hover effect. I could also say text decoration none, and that will remove the underline. I mean, it's up to you. Maybe like I shouldn't do it because underline is a default for the links. So anyways, those are like design choices. You can decide how you want to do it, and let's go ahead and save it now. One more thing that I want to add is some comments in my HTML document. And so I will just add a reminder to myself to include the logo for my page when I have some idea for that logo. So I'm gonna say and notice because I haven't closed the comment, it comments out everything. So once I close it, it will bring back everything that I had. So be careful with the comments. You know, you might accidentally comment out your work if you're just learning and you know, you're wondering where things went. It's probably because the comment was not fully closed or something, you know, maybe there's a typo in the comment. So things can happen because of, for example, the missing dash. You see, like, it's incorrect syntax for the comment, and that will cause some problems. And in your quiz, you will also have similar questions because it's important. All right, so that's it for this assignment. I think it should be really fun. But if you want to go further, let's try something creative with the background. So we could save this version, and let's look up the syntax for the gradients. I think gradients can be like really fun. I don't remember the syntax by heart. That's why we have documentation, CSS gradient. And I will go to W3 schools, and I will just use a regular gradient. And you can practice it, so I can, for example, go here, and instead of red, I will say That's the regular background color. So this is for my website. It will be black. So the color for black is actually 6 zeros, and you can shortcut them as 3 zeros. So instead of red, I'm gonna say this color, and then I will say black. All right, and that will a gradient. Now I could also specify how much I want a gradient. So maybe like I wanted more controlled. So, and you could add more colors too. So you could specify, for example, the percentages. And I'm gonna try that here. That didn't really do what I wanted to do. And in this case, I will just try to work from here. And by the way, yes, you can also change the direction, which is really cool. So I think what I was missing is actually a starting point. So I have to add something. What I'll do, I'll actually add a different color. Let's add white. And then, oh well, I didn't like white for some reason. Okay, so so sometimes when you feel like stuck, you can... oh, I know what I was doing wrong. It was working for me. I just should have used a different number. Instead of 90, I should have used 20. So this is what I was trying to do. So let's do it again. So not 90, I will use 50, for example. Yeah, so basically I want more black at the top, and here I could say 0, and maybe I should say 90 here. Okay, let's do 5. Yeah, the gradients can be a little tricky, so you have to kind of, if you don't get them right, don't get discouraged. But if you are lucky, you can actually get them right. So I was trying to create this type of effect. So what I can do is I can just copy the entire line. Instead of red, I will make it some light gray, and here I will have black. Okay, and here for the yellow I will say a darker gray. And then here I could say just gray. Let's see what that would look like. Huh, funny, but a dark gray apparently is lighter than the regular gray. Or maybe I misspelled it, that might be another reason. Alright, so okay, fine. I like this color. I will choose black as my default color. I'll paste it in my body. And now it looks a little fancier. I think now I see that I could make an adjustment here. So maybe instead of 20, I should start it a little earlier. So anyways, you can play around with that and see what you like. Maybe I should say 5%. Maybe dark gray could be 1%. And in this case, maybe I should say, maybe I should make a different color for the H1. Let's make it darker color. And we could even make it darker. Well, maybe not too dark. But anyways, you can basically go on with that forever. I kind of like the darkness. Maybe I can just change my percentage here to like 2%. And that kind of creates like a silhouette look. Yeah, I could also still play with the color of the text. Maybe I could also make it a little bigger. So let's make it 35 instead of 25. I could also raise it up a little bit. Margin top, let's make it 0. All right. I think it should be darker. Anyways, so you get the picture. You can go on like that forever, and you can create three-dimensional effects with the colors. Well, let's see. One more thing that I could have here is my signature. Actually, I think I will change the color back to black for the heading, and I will try to find an image that I could use in the background. My favorite website, Pixabay. And I'm gonna look for camera lens glow. It's gonna be a fun experiment. So how about this one? Let's try this one. Let's see what it's gonna look. I'm gonna borrow it for a second. So here's my path to the image, and I will go to the W3 schools. I don't need the gradient anymore. So for example, in this example, they used a texture image to repeat, and then we also have the flower image that does not repeat. In my example, I will just use one image. Let's grab this code for the background image, and let's take it here, and we will have to remove that second image, and for this image we'll have to replace it with the valid link, because it's not gonna work outside of the W3 schools what they provided. I'll explain you later why, but in general, just know that if the image starts with HTTPS, then it's gonna work across the websites. All right, so I grabbed the image. I actually do like it, and I could say no repeat. And I could also position it toward the bottom. So this way, I do like it no repeat because it blends with the background, right? All right, so looks nice. Let's copy this code here. I will position it to the bottom right. And this way it fills in that extra space. And of course it overrides my background image for the gradient. So that's something that unfortunately happened here. So I can actually make a choice right now. Maybe I will not use my background image for the gradient. Maybe I will just stick with the regular background image. And this is again where the comments can be handy. I can just comment out my gradient, and I can leave the background image, and I could also change the color of the H1. So now instead of black, it should be some other color. I don't want to forget what I used for the gradient in case I decide to go back to that idea. So let me add a comment to myself, and I'll change the color, and I'll keep the old color, and I'll keep the comment. So let's do something like that. All right, color for the gradient background, and now I will say, okay, color, some other color, let's make it light gray again, and I don't like the margin anymore. So I think what I'll have to do, instead of the color for the gradient background, I should say styles for the gradient background. I'll move the comment up, and I will comment out both the margin and the color. All right, so now it's a better spacing for the image background, and if I want to go back, I can still do that. So this is how you can basically comment out, add the comments for yourself, and also comment out multiple lines in case you want to change your mind potentially in the future. And you can also, if you forget what that background image is, you could also add a note that it's a gradient. I do remember what it is. I'm not gonna do that, but I might actually, I will do it just for the learning purposes, to help you to learn that that's the correct code for the gradient. So you could also add references for yourself. I find it very, very helpful to do things like that. So I'm gonna leave it here in case you want to try it. You want to try it with a different color. And I hope you enjoy that. I hope you have fun with this assignment. I could actually make this heading a little bigger. Say H2. And I'll make it slightly bigger. Not so big, maybe 18 points. Let's see what that one looks like. And so forth. Basically, you can customize your design to the level of perfection that you want. And you can also, again, use the comments if you want to try different ideas. Right now, I'm not so sure if that uppercase actually is the best choice, but I might leave it for now. All right, so that's how you have fun with CSS. And again, it's up to you how many CSS styles you're gonna use. Even if you use a little bit and add a couple of comments, that's fine, and you just basically get better with that as you do more of CSS work. One thing that I do highly recommend is using the tutorial. You can try things out here. You can copy them over to your CodePen, and I think you will really enjoy that assignment, I hope. So good luck, everyone, and I look forward to seeing your work.